Hey guys, since there's only 3 episodes dropping both this week and next week, I'm just gonna do each episode by itself. And I think I might do that with when eventually goes down to 2 episodes each week. But basically, this one is episode 5, Trouble in Paradise. Um, just a sec. I'm gonna go couple by couple this episode. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do it like that every single episode from now on, but um, I'll see. But this it seemed a little bit better, easier to kind of do couple by couple. But basically, first couple that we start off with is Megan and Derek. Um, so when we see them first pop up on our screens, he is feeling guilty for making her upset and blindsided the night before. Um, and personally, I don't think so. I don't think he should feel guilty. Uh, Maybe I can kind of see um, the fact that she was a little blindsided. However, I believe he was gentle in the way he did it. He wasn't saying, you were basically a B word, and you were snarky to me and all that, because that's not true. Um, he was just trying to bring it up in a way that um he can express himself, and perhaps maybe paddleboarding wasn't the right way or right time to do it, maybe perhaps because, and this is just my speculation, but perhaps in Megan's mind she was feeling like she wanted to just have fun in that moment and not have like such a serious conversation. And if that's true, that's probably what she should have said. Um, and I mean, maybe that's what she had told him, after the fact, like after they had, gone back to the hotel, and they had discussed it, because she says that they had discussed it the next morning, after they had got, or that night when they got back the from the when they had gotten back from the paddleboarding. She said that they had talked about it, so maybe she did, and that's where he understood her from. It's just that he was actually, for the most part, he was rather um gentle in the way that he stated things. um She then goes on to explain that she's an avoider, and as a result shuts down, um, which, I mean, I don't think I necessarily disagree with her about that, but because we kind of saw it um, in real time, so I can't really say that I disagree with her on that. But then, as they're laying in I think it's the hammock, they start, asking questions off of cards. I assume that were provided by the experts, because I've seen other previous couples, maybe not necessarily cards, but they write down questions on like uh, pieces of paper and put it into like a fishbowl, and they ask the question for the both, like to both of them, instead of just the one person, to like one person. And so the first question, and honestly the only question that we saw, was what are your perceptions on having kids? And he says that he's looking forward to being a dad. He states that he wants 2 to 3. And so Megan is taken aback because, well, yes, she wants kids. She said in episode 2, I believe, is when they introduced them, that she wanted 1 kid. Um, and this is where I kind of agree with her, because three is a lot. Three is a lot for any couple, to be quite honest. And unless both people are on board with having 2 or 3 kids, it's going to be I mean, it's going to be a lot, because one person is definitely just wanting one, while the other wants more than one. They want at least 2, but possibly 3, which is Derek. So at the end of the day, she's gonna feel like if she gives into him and gives him a second or third baby, I there's the high potential of her feeling. Um, there's a high potential of her feeling. What is it? Taken advantage of, possibly, um, and her feeling burnt out in the long run, because uh, whether we want to believe it or not, women tend to be the ones who take care of the kids and the households, and everything that goes on in the households, pretty much by themselves. And if she knows she can handle at least one, but she doesn't think that she could handle 2 or 3, then what's going to end up happening is she's going to feel resentful, and she's going to feel burnt out, because she feels like she's doing all the work, which is, like I said, it's a high possibility that will happen. And she's going to end up maybe one of those women who end up divorcing their husbands, because they end up um, doing the bulk of the child rearing and all the stuff that comes with the mental load of, like, what do they need, the lunches, their after school activities, their possibly their before school activities, anything that they want to do on the weekends, anything that they want to do, like the kids want to do, and she's gonna have to take the bulk of it, because like I keep saying, like, women tend to be the ones that end up taking on the brunt of that work. I mean, I'm not saying that there's no men that end up being the ones that do their fair share, but that's not the majority of women, unfortunately, in the state of this, at least this country, if not the entire world. Um, so, um, so I do understand her concerns about him wanting to have at least 2, if not 3 kids. Um, Now, later in the episode, they're eating lunch. I'm not sure. I don't remember what day it is, because they do eventually have like a day 6 and I think a day 7 of marriage, like that pop up on the screen. But some one of those days they're having lunch or dinner, and he brings up the fact that Megan has a dog, and we see a little clip of on their wedding day, um, where she states that she has a Shih Tzu, and he's concerned about where the dog is going to sleep and if the dog snores, because his sister has 2 dogs, and they sleep in the bed with her, and they snore like a freight train, is I think what he said, or what he implied, basically. And so he brings up his concerns about that. So yeah, I don't hear any resolution as to like the sleeping arrangements for the dog, but I mean, perhaps they'll come to a consensus in episode 6 when they return back home. Um, So the next couple that we see is Brittany and Will. And um, she brings up the fact that she wants natural and organic conversation. And maybe I'm wrong, but didn't he kind of say that like at the end of episode 4? Um, like he wants her to be herself, and she's basically stating it, but in a different way. So I mean, he did sort of, as much as I've been on him, he did state, I want you to be yourself. And so he did in a way agree. It's just that I think for her, she doesn't feel like he's being himself. As much as he's claiming that he wants her to be herself, he's not doing the same for, like, he's not doing the same for himself. He's not being his authentic self and his genuine self. He's, because that's the issue I've been having with him, is that he's been echoing a lot of what she's saying, just just quite a lot, unfortunately. He said, "Oh yeah, my favorite color is pink." Whenever she says something, it's like, "Yeah, me too," or "Okay, yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that." He's not actually, from what I remember, he's not really giving his opinion about anything. Um, the only thing I remember him saying is that his sister made him a neat freak or something. Um, and that's the only thing that I remember him saying, other than what he said to her parents about him being agnostic. But that was like, he was agnostic, and he went on a tirade of the Crusades and the Christian church or the Catholic church, um, persecuting people. And it's like, well, what? Oh, but yeah, so that, I mean, I don't know. So basically, we're back at step one, where he's feeling like he's asking questions, and she doesn't feel like they resolved anything. And it's just a cyclical pattern at this point. Um, and I'll go more into detail in a few minutes about this particular comparison, but it feels like Beck and Austin all over again. Um, but they do seem to agree that if one of them needs space, to just tell the other, and they'll come back and try to resolve it later. Um, but before I kind of bring in Pat and Rhonda in a minute. We see them go to a ruin site where or was that after? I think it was after, because I think what happened first was that Will and Brittany and Pat and Rhonda um, all go on like a tandem bicycle ride together, and afterwards, Brittany and Rhonda go off together, while Pat and Will go off together and talk separately by themselves. And Brittany explains that the fight that her and Will had the day before, and she's saying, well, that was independent Brittany, and that part of her needs to go away. But Rhonda tells her, no, that doesn't need to go away, so that you need to balance that out with how to be in a relationship with someone again. Um, and um, Over with Pat, Will says he's never had the same issues with communication in his previous relationships. And personally, I don't feel like that is true. I think that he has had similar communication issues with other women. And what happened was either A, the woman was trying to get him to say anything other than okay, or him echoing her statements, um, and he brushed it off, or and this is where she kind of has fault in this, if this second scenario is true, but or B, she never said anything because, like Brittany, it was like pulling teeth to get him to say something other than what she had stated, or he agrees with her. And that's where if that is the case, that's where her issues lie, because you can't not say anything and expect him to read your mind, because he's not a mind reader. So Rhonda, back up with Rhonda and Brittany, she explains to Brittany that she asked Pat when his last relationship was. She had told him that hers was in early 2020, and he had stated that his last relationship ended 6 months before going into the MAFS process, and it had lasted 3.5 years. Um, so, so from what I got, was what Rhonda was saying was, um, is he really ready to be in a relationship, or like and therefore a marriage, or is he simply in this process because he doesn't want to be alone? Um, because I mean, when you say your last relationship ended 6 months before the process, or any short period of time, like 6 months or less before the process, so the MAFS process started, it 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 doesn't sound like you are able to sit with yourself for at least 6 months or longer by yourself. And to me, men aren't beating the allegations not of simply not being able to sit with themselves for a while and make sure that they're good before they get into a relationship, because 6 months, like it only took you 6 months from the time of your last relationship ending to you getting into marriage with a complete stranger. um I mean, well, I mean, I'm not saying that he has to essentially be in to not be in a relationship for 4 years like Rhonda has, but you can't even be by yourself for like a year or more than 6 months. That it does kind of look like you aren't willing, like you aren't willing to kind of be by yourself, that you need to be in a relationship. This is kind of like the concern I had, like I'm starting to see, like have a little bit with Chad now. I mean, thinking about the fact that he had failed marriages under his belt. I mean, but that's for another time. But um yeah, but then Rhonda says that he expressed to her, he felt judged and hurt by her reaction. Um, and she feels like he's very sensitive, and because his long-term marriage messed him up, made him insecure, which he doesn't want in a man. So that's sort of the two couples at the moment together. But going back to Brittany and Will, um, pretty much the last sort of scenes of them are them again talking about, or at least Brittany bringing up the fact that she doesn't like the fact that he doesn't want to have sex with her. And I'm like, why are we back at this again? I feel like I'm in Jurassic Park, where um, Dr. Grant is um, Dr. Grant is um, in the tree with Tim and helping him out of both the car and the tree. And then once they both get out the car and the car ends up sort of not killing them, obviously, because if anyone's watched the movie, they didn't get killed. But the car ends up back on top of them, or which essentially means that they're back in the car again. And I'm like, so why exactly are you in this conversation yet again? Like, I mean, unfortunately, and this is where I'm starting to be on Will's side here, because um it, it's probably best that you don't have sex, that it's off the table. You probably shouldn't have got gone down that route. You probably shouldn't have, because, and this is where my comparison to Becca and Austin really come into play, because um if you've seen Married at First Sight season 17, which is a Denver season, they had Becca and Austin, and Becca was begging, and I mean literally begging Austin to give her some form of affection, any form of affection. And what she meant was, I want you to be able to give me, like, to hold my hand, or to give me a kiss on the lips, and not tonguing, like putting his tongue down her throat kind of kiss, just like a regular like an affectionate kiss on the lips, or even just a kiss on the cheek, or a hug, or a cuddle. Like, it doesn't have to be sexually charged to to give affection, and that's what Becca was trying to get Austin to do. And but with Austin, the only thing that he can equate to affection with is sex. Unfortunately, it's sex. And he just he and honestly, I think it was because, and maybe I feel like he said this in some shape, way, or form on that season, but he just didn't want to give it to her, like give her any sort of affection outside of sex, because he got the ick from her, and he got the ick from her early on in the season. Um, and so sex was completely off the table, basically. But um, it, and that's why he just wasn't equating affection with anything other than just sex, unfortunately. Um, and this is what is happening here, is that Brittany is equating affection to simply just having, like, equating um, wanting, like, a person showing that they want their spouse um, with affection as only sex, and that's it. And that's not what Will is trying to say. He didn't say that he wasn't going to actually not give her any form of affection, because we saw it at the ruins, when they were at the top of the ruins, and he kissed her, like he had both hands on the side of her neck, and he was kissing her. So it's not like he was taking affection completely off the table. It's just that for Brittany, showing affection and showing the only way you really the only way to show that you really want your spouse is by having sex, and that's literally it. And that's the problem that she's having, and that's where her problem, that's where she needs to be held accountable, because there's more than one way to show affection to your partner besides having sex. You can cuddle on the couch, um you can um, kiss each other, you can hold hands, you can rub their arm, rub their leg, whatever. It doesn't have to literally be just one thing. And that's where her problem lies, is that sex is literally the only way to show that you want to be with your partner. And honestly, I think that's how her exes showed up, is that her exes only seemed to want to have sex, and that was it with her. And the moment that they had it, they dipped. Um, and that's where her issue is that she's unfortunately leading with her body. And because that's how her exes only seem to want to deal with her, is by using her and her body, and that's it. So that's where I kind of have to get on her about, because that's not the only way to show affection, and that's not the only way he has showed affection to you. I mean, I understand that it can feel hurt. It can hurt to go all the way and then have your significant other just take that completely off the table. And I don't want to discount that at all. That's a very real um feeling. It's just that the problem is she's not thinking about the fact that there's other ways to show affection, and that's where she needs to kind of get out of that mindset, is that that's not the only way to show affection. So um yeah. Now, on day 6 of marriage, the all the couples go on a catamaran for the day. Um, the couples then sort of kind of go on like a round robin type of thing, where they tell everyone what has been going on with them. And one thing that I thought I noticed was that um, Jalen talks about Josh was starting to fall in love with her, and she was 2, and I'm just like, it's day 6. It's literally day 6. You are not you're falling in love in less than a week. Um, I don't get that at all, but um, maybe I'm just weird, but I, you're falling in love in less than a week. Um, I don't know. Um, One thing I also noted was that Josh wanted to jump into the water off of the catamaran, and um, he wanted her to jump into the water with him. And I was just like, why? Why is at this point it's becoming really obvious that he is wanting her to do everything that he wants to do. Um, and he's not allowing for her to do anything that she wants to do. Like, she's literally not able to do anything that she wants to do. He is, and he states something along the lines of, when would like when are you going to do something like this in Panama, like again in Panama? And it's like, really, I don't want her to end up um blow up at him because she feels like she has to do everything that he wants to do and nothing that she wants to do. And so um I guess I can kind of bring them up because I'm going to kind of go into, I'm pretty much talking about them only at this point. But yeah, like it feels like eventually she's going to end up blowing up at him because she's always doing everything that he wants to do, and he's not doing anything that she would like to do. I'm not saying that he has to completely not do anything that he wants to do and therefore has to do everything that she wants to. But at some point, you're going to have to do something that she wants to do. And for her, sitting by the pool and lounging and doing whatever, either sunbathing or reading a book or, kind of watching like a show by the pool or something, that's what she says that she wants to do. Because later on in the episode, they're at the pool at the hotel, and he's like, "What? Come into the pool? When are you gonna do something like this again in Panama?" And it's like, again, this you can't keep doing everything that you want to do, Josh. You can't keep doing that because at the end of the day, it's a give and take in a relationship. And if all we're doing is stuff that you want to do, then you're never gonna feel satisfied because you're never doing anything that you like to do. So yeah, so at some point I just hope that she doesn't keep squashing that down because like I mean at the end of the day when they were in the pool, well, yes, she was smiling. um it was obviously getting on her nerves because she was like, she told him, well, you can't keep using that line because she's right. You can't keep using that line because at the end of the day, I got to do some stuff that I want to, like, I find enjoyable. And if we're only doing things that you find enjoyable, then at this point, then what am I doing here? This is just you plopping me into your life and you not integrating into my life at all. So yeah. Um Eventually they end up sitting by the pool, and um she, asks what it looks like for him when he has kids. And I don't think he really answered the question. I mean, he says that for him, he was never allowed to play sports. And he says he would take his bike out for hours and go riding around and stuff like that. And um, she kind of talks about her background and how she she would always be taken to like Toys R Us and getting given all of the toys that she wanted essentially. And when she went to college, she had played sports and while her parents never finished college. So I mean, I don't think either one of them really answered the question. They really just talked about how their childhood was and all that stuff. So um I mean, maybe in a roundabout way, they were trying to say, well, I want to be able to give my kids the the stuff that I never was able to do, but they didn't really state that. So I was just like, did they really answer the question, particularly Josh? So I don't know. They seem more of the fun couple, and they just are out there doing fun stuff and not really um well the fun stuff that he wants to do, but you know anyways. So we go the next couple I want to talk about is Belinda and Chad. So they're to me they're not really giving much. Because we hadn't really seen much of them up until like maybe 40 minutes into the show or into the episode. Um and she's saying what she likes about him, but he doesn't seem to be saying much of anything in regards to her. He can't find the word. I don't know if he just can't find the words or if he just truly doesn't have anything to say about her. Um, Part of me is maybe leaning more towards the latter, maybe, at this point, because we literally don't have, like, we really don't have much of anything in regards to their scenes, because, um and this was sort of the same way with, episodes 3 and 4, like, we didn't really have much of them in the way of content, because the only thing we really saw them in episode 4 was him buying her a hat, and that was quite literally it. That's the only thing I remember them in episode 4. Um, so a producer kind of jumps in and is like, "Well, is there anything that you like about her?" Um, and he gets frustrated because he I it seemed to me like he was interrupted, and I hate being interrupted. Um, Personally, when I'm trying to formulate a thought, and I'm like, so I pause and try to think of the word, or think of what I'm trying to say. I kind of hate that, or when someone hears me speaking and they just interrupt anyway, and I'm like, well, can I kind of finish my thought here? Like, I wasn't done yet talking. The problem is that he wasn't really in the midst of actually saying anything. He was saying, what I like about you is, pause, pause, it's just he really wasn't saying anything. Um, and so once he kind of gives the producer what for, because I was gonna say bark, but that, like he was barking at the producer, and I don't want to say that because that sounds bad. But after kind of giving the producer like what for, when um, she was trying to get him to say what he likes about her, he's like, "So back to my, let me get back into my train of thought here." And he didn't even finish his train of thought. He just said, "I'm tired. I want to go." And so they end up going back to their room. Um, and um, Belinda doesn't like how he reacted to the producer asking a question, because, well, yes, you were frustrated. The way you express that frustration can make her look bad. And maybe this is her feeding too much into what people think of them. However, I think this comes from the fact stems from the fact that her ex cheated. According to her, her ex cheated multiple times, and maybe she feels shame and guilt from people, because people may have, and I'm just speculating here, but people may have um, judged her for having um, stayed with someone who was obviously bad. I don't want to say bad, but displayed toxic behaviors, with the whole cheating thing. And so um, maybe that's where her fear of Chad showing frustration and looking bad on her, because that can be displayed as toxic behavior. Not that he's a toxic person, but that he's showing toxic behavior, and so that can reflect negatively on her, and so therefore she is like, well, I don't want to go back in that space again of being judged for staying with someone because they cheated on me and repeatedly. And it, it would be one thing if he cheated once and I left, but he cheated multiple times. According to me, he cheated multiple times, and I continued to stay with him. So yeah, that's kind of where I think that was stemming from. I mean, I don't think she vocalized it at that point because I don't hear her vocalize at that point. And maybe she will later on in episode 6, but or in subsequent episodes. But that's kind of what I got with that. Now, with our last couple, Rhonda and Pat, since I kind of touched on the tandem bike ride earlier, I won't get into that again, but um, we see another scene of them do a cocktail making class. And so after they kind of make 2 cocktails together, she sits down with him and explains why she was feeling what she was feeling when they had talked about when their last relationship was. Um, and she states that um, basically she was expressing what I was thinking in the tandem bike scene at part of the episode, where she was feeling like, are you simply doing this process because you don't want to be alone, or are you really wanting to be married and have a partnership? Um, and so Rana then says, well, she's kind of feeling smothered, and the reason she's feeling smothered is because she was on her own for so long. And she even explains that later in the scene that she hasn't lived with someone since 1999, and and so she's nervous about moving in with Pat. And actually, that scene was a completely different scene. It was like one of the very last scenes of the episode. But basically, she's feeling smothered because she for one hasn't been in a relationship in 4 years, and two, she hasn't lived with a man since 1999. So that was over 20 years ago at this point. And so she um, she went from being by herself and being able to do whatever she wants whenever she wants to being with someone basically 24/7. So she just wants to be able to um, go on a walk by herself and just have a moment alone to herself whenever like a moment alone to herself, whether that's a walk, watching a TV show by herself, watching a movie by herself, going out with friends somewhere, or hanging out with a friend at the house, whatever. And personally, I think maybe smothered might not have been the best word. Maybe she could have used constrained or stifled, because smothered does have a rather negative connotation to it. Um, but um, personally, I think Rhonda, out of the 10 people in this season and the 5 couples in this season, she is the best one that is communicating in rather effectively. She can, like I said, she can tweak certain words here and there, but for the most part, I think she is the best at communicating among these 10 people. Um, but yeah, so pretty much there's other montages of the other couples. I think they showed um, Derek and Megan and Jalen and Josh talking um, as well on their last night of the honeymoon. But I didn't really hear much of anything that was of note, so I didn't write anything down. But next episode, we're back in Austin, so I have not watched episode 6 yet, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna watch it and post it my review for it um, today or tomorrow. But I'll definitely watch both episodes 6 and 7 by tomorrow. And I should have those up tomorrow. I'll just have to see. But yeah, that is my thoughts for episode 5. Um, Apparently, according to a little birdie, it kind of gets worse for Brittany and Will, and perhaps a expert is going to come on and speak to them because it just gets kind of worse. But I with that, I want you guys to let me know what you thought of episode 5. Like the video, comment on it, and share with anybody who enjoys the show. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.